Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I apologise for my absence yesterday, but I was actually in Eldoret, and I'll put up a photograph of where I was. There was a investment conference held by 8 counties in that region, and it really was most enjoyable. NTV, I did an interview with them. And I was just saying, county governments have to create investment and employment opportunities amongst many things. And I think this is a step in the right direction, consolidating and creating a level playing field. And, very interesting lots. Caught up with Dr. Richard Sesibera, the East African Community Secretary General. It was co-hosted by the Kenya National Chamber, that's Kiprono, who will be my guest at Mindspeak a week on Saturday. I got a ride back in Joshua's helicopter, which was rather marvellous because I'd never been to that part of the country, North Rift, close to the Ugandan border. And from Eldoret to Nakuru was a landscape I'd never seen, and then we were flying quite low, and therefore it made it even more interesting. I got this very granular interpretation of what was happening on the ground. We flew back with Joshua of Jamii Telecom Kiprono and Phyllis Candier, who's the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and the East African Community. I tweeted, "Wow, what a ride," when I got off the helicopter. And that took me back to the 9th of November when I was talking about Hunter S. Thompson, an American journalist come author and the founder of the Gonzo journalism movement, made many pithy and luminous comments like, "Buy the ticket, take the ride." And life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving early in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." Hunter S. Thompson again, "He who makes a beast of himself relieves himself the pain of being a man." Home thoughts, Tim Thomas Pynchon. A screaming came across the sky. Maybe there is no heaven, or maybe this is all pure gibberish, product of the demented imagination of a lazy, drunken hillbilly with a heart full of hate, who has found a way to live out where the real winds blow, to sleep late, have fun, get wild, drink whiskey, and drive fast on empty streets with nothing in mind except falling in love and not getting arrested. Raise ipsa loquitur, let the good times roll. Political reflections. I saw this tweet, "Syrian leaders' fate to be decided soon in talks," says the US. I said everyone is dispensable at the end of the day, but the point is that I think Assad will win a free and fair election. This is a day late, but pretty extraordinary stuff, wasn't it? The bomb, the purported IED that brought down the Russian airline in Sinai, and it's pretty remarkable and rather worrying, I think. And on the 6th of November, I said, what is evident is that ISIS has struck deeper into the very heart of Fortress Europe and higher, 35,000 feet, in the case of Flight 9268. The suspected Islamic State mastermind of the Paris attacks was among those killed in a raid north of the capital on Thursday. Authorities said they had identified the corpse, rather macabre, isn't it, as they don't find the fingerprints and the DNA. Belgian national Abdelhamid Abaaoud. From fingerprints in the aftermath of Wednesday's raid, it was his body we discovered in the building riddled with impacts. Interesting piece in the Atlantic, the mysterious life and death of Abdelhamid Abaaoud. And then I put up a photograph of him, and somebody's found a YouTube link which is rather macabre, and don't watch it if you're squeamish, because it has made me squeamish. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups as well. French media identified the female suicide bomber as Hasna Aitboulahcen, a cousin to Abaaoud. She was 26 years old, a French citizen, former manager of Baco Construction. And it took me back to a piece I wrote about the brothers Tsarnaev and the long tail. I said the definition of asymmetric warfare is best understood in the events we witnessed in Boston. The brothers Tsarnaev, at least until their capture, caused a consequential loss of $65 million per day on a hyperpower that is equipped with an arsenal of nuclear weapons, cruise missiles, aircraft carriers, and other state-of-the-art weapons. It really is an outrageous return on investment when you think about it. I said there are more than 7 billion of us now in this 21st century world of ours. The long tail in a population of 7 billion is not an insignificant absolute number. In statistics, a long tail of some distributions of numbers is the portion of the distribution having a larger number of occurrences far from the head or central part of the distribution. Put it in a different way, there are surely many brothers Tsarnaev in this new 21st century of ours. And I was also talking on the 12th of January about the arrival of the asymmetric threat on the streets of Paris. And I said it was deeply unsettling and will surely keep Europe off balance and presages a new normal. In that piece I said the Byronic hero, incapable of love or capable only of an impossible love, suffers endlessly. He is solitary, languid, his condition exhausts him. If he wants to feel alive, it must be in the terrible exaltation of a brief and destructive action. Global research. The Friday the 13th Paris massacres were highly organized, committed by heavily armed, closely monitored terrorist professionals. Robert Fisk says, in a borderless world, the days when we could fight foreign wars and be safe at home may be long gone. Early in 2014, ISIS released one of its first videos, and it's the next item in Rich Wrap-Up's The End of Sykes-Picot YouTube. Largely unseen in Europe, it had neither the slick cutting-edge professionalism of its later execution tapes nor the haunting nasheed music that accompanies most of its propaganda. Instead, a handheld camera showed a bulldozer pushing down a rampart of sand that had marked the border between Iraq and Syria. As the machine destroyed the dirt revetment, the camera panned down to a handwritten poster lying in the sand. End of Sykes-Picot. Have a look at that, it's pretty surreal. I'll put up a photograph of the fellow who is apparently a Chilean jihadist, whose name escapes me, Abu Safia. This has now been the hottest year on record, and the thermometer just keeps rising. Last month was the hottest October in 136 years of data. El Nino triggered powerful typhoons. Every El Nino is unique, and this year isn't yet considered the worst. By most measures, that title is held by 1997-1998, which recorded the highest sustained temperatures over a 3-month period. If current conditions persist, 2015 could exceed that. Jonathan Ferro, German bonds head for the longest winning run since 2011. Put up that graph. Currency markets, euro was, when I came in, was at 107.17, now 106.96. Dollar index around the 99.15 level. Japanese yen 122.92. The pound 152.84. The Aussie 0.7200. India rupee 66.115. South Korean won 1154.63. Real 376.32, and I'll come to a little bit about that. Inflation's top 10% in Brazil. Egyptian pound 783.01 and the rand 14.0102. They hiked rates a quarter point. In South Africa, dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. I think, back of my mind, I feel we're not going to see a rate hike because I think circumstances are extremely fragile and illiquid at that point in time. Euro dollar, have a look at the 3-month chart, looks as if it's headed lower. Trade soft bounces seem to fade. Negative is the new normal. Germany sells 2-year notes at a yield of minus 0.38%, the lowest on record. And investors are even paying Portugal for holding its debt. Portuguese 1-year bonds sold at minus 0.006, first negative yield ever. According to Bloomberg, Belgravia mansion sales slump as Russians vanish from London. Commodity markets, Holger, here is the chart of doom. The Baltic Dry Index since 1985, and it's at a record low and seen by many as a forward indicator for the global economy. On the 3rd of November last year, I spoke about how the commodity supercycle was dead in the water. Jonathan Ferro tweeted yesterday, WTI takes another visit below 40, but have a look at this 3-month chart where you can see it's had quite a bit of a bounce since then. We're now trading at 41.75. Gold was as high as 1083 when I checked in this morning. It's now at about 1081. A 1,141 carat gem quality diamond, second in size only to the Cullinan diamond cut into the British crown jewels, has been unearthed by Lucara Diamond Corporation in Botswana. It is almost impossible to estimate a value for such an extraordinary stone, given that evaluation is highly dependent on the color, the clarity, cutting and polishing characteristics. But it's probably extremely valuable. Emerging markets, Holger again, Brazil's inflation surpasses 10% for the first time in 12 years. Bloomberg is saying that the Selic rate will be lifted to as high as 16.25% by July from 14.25% according to data. On that note, I jumped to Oscar Niemeyer, who's one of my favorite architects. La Bibliothèque Oscar Niemeyer, Lia Architecture et Lecture au Havre. It looks beautiful, a beautiful space. Brazil Real, 1-year chart, 376. We're below 4, which was my target, which we hit. And now we've sort of strengthened because of the interest rate position. Moving on to sub-Saharan Africa, Carl Bildt, more than 200,000 people have already fled from Burundi, and it could easily get much worse. This was the point I was making in May this year when I said eyes on Burundi, spillover risks remain. And that's the spillover I was trying to talk about. Mugabe's wife denies presidential ambitions. Said Thursday she denied harboring ambitions to succeed her husband, pledging instead to support the 91-year-old's next presidential bid. I am standing here as the wife of the president, as well as the person who chose to lead the Women's League. It ends there, she told ruling party supporters at a rally in the capital. I do not need any other position. Africa oil boom fades as $50 crude shuts door on high-cost deals. This is Bloomberg. Very interesting. On the brink of a boom was the banner on PricewaterhouseCoopers' review of Africa's oil industry 16 months ago. Now oil below $50 has made more than 2 out of 3 investment projects on the continent non-viable. Capital markets are effectively closed to the oil and gas industry in Africa, said Tony Hayward, former head of BP plc. There are a raft of changes working through their various parliaments around Africa at the moment, and they've been primarily based on prices that were at $100. The world has changed since then, and this is a point I made previously about policymakers needing to be quicker and sharp at the frontier, otherwise they get caught out by this kind of thing. With oil below $50 a barrel, only a third of $270 billion of potential investment projects in Africa make economic sense, according to Obo Idorniki. We need a higher oil price to meet future production requirements. That's Tullow's CEO Aidan Heavey. Do it quick, do whatever needs to be done, and maximize the value of the core assets that you have. The government has to look for ways of bailing them out. Some have been given extensions just as an incentive to make them stay. This is in Kenya. Let's move on. South African all-share up 4.71% year-to-date, bounced 0.89% yesterday. It's done rather well, hasn't it, in comparison to other African indices. The South African Reserve Bank lifted interest rates by 25 basis points to 6.25 on Thursday. Look at the move that happened in the rand after that announcement, and that's thank you, Jonathan Ferro, for that. I'll put up a 6-month chart of dollar rand. I don't think this quarter point is going to hold it from going back towards 15, frankly. The Egyptian pound is at 783.01. The Egyptian stock market rallied 2.42% yesterday. It's down 26.41% year-to-date. It was bouncing off a 23-month low yesterday. Nigeria's central bank told commercial lenders at a meeting last week that it plans to cut dollar supplies to the market because reserves are running short. Deputy Governor Sarah Elady told treasurers of the country's banks at the meeting in Lagos on November the 13th that they should prepare for current exchange rate policies to remain in place for longer, and that there are no plans to devalue the Naira or to loosen currency trading restrictions, according to the person. Central bank will only sell as many dollars to banks or currency dealers as it receives from oil exports, which amount to about $1 billion a month. They're choking it off more. Nigeria's foreign reserves have dropped 19% since the end of June 2014. They increased 0.5% in the past month to $13.3 billion. Economic growth slowed to 2.8% on an annualized basis, from 6.2% a year ago. Charles Soludo, who was the central bank governor from 2004 to 2009, said that Emefiele should revert to a more flexible exchange rate regime and that the rationing of dollars was hurting manufacturers. It creates rent seekers in the foreign exchange market, while small and medium enterprises are dying, he told a conference in Lagos. Soludo's successor, Sanusi, also criticized the central bank, saying last month that the current governor is in denial over the Naira. The Naira rose 0.4% to 197, but of course it's in liquid. It's not being exchanged at that. If it was exchanged, they've choked off the supply, so they've created a sort of fictitious level for it. On January 2015 this year, I said, Emefiele's finger in the dike strategy is about to be overwhelmed by a tsunami. I stand corrected. It's going to get overwhelmed at some point, but he's managed to put more fingers in the dike for now. Nigerian oil shares down 18.62% this year, and has fallen 6.667% over 4 weeks. Ghana Stock Exchange down 12.89% this year. Awua, a model in an outfit by designer Maria Bukum Keita. Looks pretty grand, doesn't he? Moving on to Kenya. Kenyans stuck in 50-kilometre traffic jam on Nairobi-Mombasa Road. I've given up going up and down, but I used to love going up and down that road. I wrote a piece in January 2013, On the Road, my Christmas holiday ritual is to jump into a car, take the family down to the coast. The Nairobi-Mombasa Road arrows into immensities and is impossible to believe. It retains near mystical hold on my imagination, connects me to my childhood and beyond. Dad used to once own an Alfa Romeo, which there were only 3 then in the country. Therefore you couldn't get it fixed half the time. And my pilgrimage along that road started then, when we used to come from Mombasa. Now, of course, we set off from Nairobi, but the road still has its hold. The landmarks still reach out to me. This time we were swarmed by doves near Imali, which was breathtaking. There is still the eerie and deserted, very, very Oscar Niemeyer building, which might have been a petrol station with a restaurant. We stopped at Makindu, which is like being teleported to Amritsar. And on New Year's Day was packed to the rafters. We always stop at McKinnon Road, where there is a shrine which houses the tomb of Saeed Baghali, a Punjabi foreman at the time of the building of the railway, who was renowned for his strength. Let me put up a photograph of that somewhat eerie and deserted petrol station. Kenya shilling, pretty steady, 102.24. Nairobi all share up 6.577% this month, so pretty strong recovery. That's based on the back of Safaricom, which has rallied more than 14% since releasing its first half earnings. I was quite fulsome in my praise for Bob, and he said to me, "You're very fulsome." And the reason I was fulsome was because those were really good results, and that's evidenced by the share price reaction since those results were released. NSE 20 is at a 5-week high, just below 4,000. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Just to remind you that Mindspeak will be back next Saturday with Kiprona Kitoni, who's a friend and the chairman of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. Once again, thank you for stopping by.